Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thank you for joining me today. I'm doing a live stream painting class here. If this is the first time that you've joined me for a live class, welcome. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can click on my picture or the name in the bottom of the corner of this video, and it will take you to my channel, and you can subscribe from there. You should be able to subscribe, though, from the bottom of this page here, and that'll allow you to talk in the chat room, because it won't let you chat unless you've subscribed to my channel. So little tidbit there. Let me click off my logo here. There we go. And I'll talk about our painting today. So we're going to do some Southwest Desert Cactus things today. So I'm from the Southwest. I'm a desert girl. I grew up in Palm Springs, California, lived in Arizona for several years. Mark and I got married in Parker, Arizona. So this is kind of a fun one for me today. So let's get started. I have a 12 by 16 inch canvas panel. You can use whatever size you'd like and just size up your cactus for it. And I'm just going to start out by covering the canvas today, and Mark is going to be able to show his hair drying skills. He's going to be using the hairdryer to trying to find a good place for this to go. Put it over here. He'll be using his drying skills today because I thought I'd kind of show you. I'm doing the background pretty simple, but I just figured I would show you how I did mine. My husband, Mark, by the way, is here with us on chat.
Yes, I am here.
He is manning the chat today, so if you've got a question, you can put it in all caps, and that'll kind of make it easier for him to see it. And we'll try to get to it whenever we have a break. So I'm putting like 4 dabs of white down there. I don't know if you can see that very well. And then I'm going to put down some teal. And I want this to be a little bit darker. I sprayed it with a little bit of water. That just kind of helps the paint flow a little easier on the canvas. And let me spray it one more time because it looks like it's kind of dry down there. All right. I've got a really large brush today. Use any large brush. It really doesn't have to be any particular kind. Just whatever works for you for this part. Even a sponge brush would work, like a foam brush. And I'm just going back and forth. I'm going to do kind of a streaky background. So let me lift this up a little bit here. You can tell I've gotten paint all over my... That's why I protect my work surface. I used to work on our kitchen table, and I'd have to put out a big tablecloth every time I'd work. So we never did see the kitchen table for several years. It was covered. Okay, so now I am going to go back and forth. Now you can kind of see the streaks that are happening here. So I don't want to overblend and remove all those streaks. So I'm just going to kind of gently work across and just make sure that I've gotten all of the thick paint kind of off onto my brush here. I'm working from the sides, and I'm going to just go back and forth quickly. The water kind of helps it absorb in and gets in all those little cracks and things. If your canvas is dry, it will show through. The paint will just kind of skim on top of it, and you might need 2 coats to cover it. So having a little bit extra water helps. It's kind of dry up here at the top, so it's doing that. You can kind of push the paint down into it by kind of forcing it down in there, and then sweeping across to get those streaks. Okay, so I'm just kind of leaving it so that it looks like maybe there's like some cloudy skies back there or something. I mean, you could get really detailed with it if you wanted to and paint clouds, or you could even, I thought you could probably even do like like some hills or something back here if you wanted to. I'm kind of leaving mine pretty simple today because I wanted to focus mainly on the cactus because they're so detailed. So I didn't want a whole lot of detail in my background to take away from them. But that's just me. That's my personal preference.
Okay, we have a couple questions here. One is what kind of canvas you're using, and what brush are you using right now?
This is a Princeton brush. It's a flat number 20. Summit is the line, I guess. But these are kind of expensive, so if you're just starting out, just any kind of large brush like this, or even a foam brush, I've used these any of these would work for your background. Mainly you're just wanting to, these are called gesso brushes, and they're like $5 or something, $3 or $4. And then these are like $1 a piece. So that's the way to go if you're doing this with like a group or with kids or something like that. I just use foam brushes almost all the time when I did my backgrounds. Okay, honey, it's time for your hair drying skills here. And if you could rinse that one out when you're done too. I'm sending him with that big brush to rinse it out because you don't want to leave it in your water since we're going to be a while. Let me grab my canvas here, or my practice pad. I get asked about this all the time. This is actually a Strathmore. It's called Visual Journal Mixed Media. So mixed media is the kind that you want to look for if you're going to be painting on it. And I've done lots of different, this is what I use for all of my practices. So, any of the videos that you've seen recently, I've done on here to practice beforehand, just to kind of get a feel for what we're going to do. I also use it to sketch out if I'm going to, use the sketch like I did a video of the sketch. So I didn't paint over it. So a lot of times I'll do a sketch on one sheet and then paint over it on another one. Like this was my sketch for the cactus, just to kind of get my idea of placement and that kind of thing. And then I did it over here on my thing. But anyhow, the other one that I used to use was called a Canson XL Mixed Media, and I have the link for that down in the description because I get asked all the time about these. But these are awesome, and they're cheap. I mean, like $8 or something like that, $8 or $9 if you get it on sale. And they've got tons of paper, and they're just thick enough that it accepts the paint well. And you could always, if you do something on here that's really, really great, you could definitely frame it from this. Just take it out and frame it. So this is next week's. Oh, I'm getting a sneak peek of next week. So we're going to do some pumpkins, decked pumpkins. So that'll be fun. Haven't painted it yet, but I got my sketch done ahead of time. So that's good for me because I'm almost doing it last minute. Let me talk about our color palette a little bit. I've got my paints stored in my little plastic baggie on a foam plate. I just like to do that because then I can keep them. These are the paints that I used for this earlier this week, and I just added a couple extra that I ran out of. But you can store them for up to a week or 2 weeks. If you keep spraying them, you can store them almost indefinitely in your sealed bag. So I have my basic color palette is, I wish I had it with me. White, this is titanium white, and then Phthalo Red Light, Quinacridone Magenta, Dioxazine Purple, Ultramarine Blue, Phthalo Green, that's this one, and Burnt Sienna. And I think, and then yellow, Cadmium Yellow Light. And then this one is a Cadmium Yellow Deep, or a Diary Light. I'm not sure how you say it. Yellow, it's very similar to Cadmium Yellow Deep. That's one that you could probably mix. I didn't end up using the orange or the red here. This one is Violet, Cobalt Violet, and you can mix that using Quinacridone Magenta and Purple. So if you don't have that, don't go out and buy it unless you want to have it. I mean, it's a great color to have. This one is Light Ultramarine Blue, and that's also a mixable color, just white plus Ultramarine Blue. This one is Cobalt, or a Phthalo Turquoise, so it's probably equal parts of Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green. This one is Sap Green, which you can mix something similar using Ultramarine Blue and yellow. You get this kind of olivey green color. This one is Lime Yellow, Vivid Lime Yellow, or I'm sorry, Vivid Lime Green. And you can mix it with Phthalo Green and some yellow. This one is Teal, so it's basically this turquoise color plus white. This one is yellow, or I'm sorry, light blue permanent, and it is basically the phthalo blue plus white. And this one is green gold, which is this color plus more yellow. So anyhow, the reason I said that was that all of these mixable colors, I just put them out because they're faster for me when I'm painting live, but you definitely don't have to have all these colors. You can mix them yourself while you're doing this painting at home. So don't feel like you have to have a ton of all these different colors. All right, good timing, honey. We've got our canvas ready here. So if you notice, I kind of did a little bit darker at the bottom. That just kind of adds to the illusion that this, I don't know, it's just what I did. So I've got some chalk here, and I'm going to go ahead and place my main cactus. My saguaro cactus is going to go just off center. So if you kind of start at the top here and come straight down, I hope you can see that okay. I might go a little bit higher with him. That's the reason I like to use chalk, is because you can kind of edit yourself. Keep them fairly thin. This is a skinny saguaro. And I'm going to give him an arm kind of right in the middle almost of his body here. And I'm just going to come up, curve it up, and go straight up, kind of mirroring this shape here. Maybe not that high. Curve it over, do a parallel line down, and then bring it in to attach to his body. Now, my example one, I kind of made his arms a little skinnier where they attach to the body. That's just artistic choice. It's a little bit more cartoonish or, you know, whimsical. So just however you want to do it. If you want to do it really realistic, you could look at some pictures of saguaro cactus and get really detailed with it. I'm going to do this arm here, I think. I'm just going to come down like that and end it before this one, just so that they're not all on the same level. Give it a little bit of interest. Let's give it another one. Now I want to be aware, because I'm going to have another, I think this is agave maybe over here, so I want to leave room for that. And I think I'll start this arm up here and just keep it pretty small, like that. I might make this arm a little bit skinnier. Get a little bit closer to his body, just so we have plenty of room. Just wipe that off with a clean towel. There we go. Get a little bit closer. Okay, that's good, I think. Hope you can see that okay. The agave is going to be in here. There's going to be a barrel cactus or another like smaller cactus right here. And then actually I want him a little bit narrowed as he comes in. So I'm going to bring these in just a little bit, like he's sort of narrow at the base slightly. Then this agave is going to have these leaf shapes almost. They're just kind of zigzag lines almost. Up and curve it down. That's good enough, I think. We can add a few more in if we want to later. Then our center, kind of find the middle of it, and then draw your line up and curve it up this way for the center of the flower that comes off of there. And it's got all these kind of little stem things that happen. And we'll paint those in later. You don't have to get super detailed with it. That's that. So simple shapes. You don't really have to know how to draw anything. I mean, you can pretty much draw, you know, some straight lines and curves. These are not super difficult. So the bottom of the prickly pear cactus here is kind of a oval. Kind of curves in a little bit. Did you have a question, honey?
No, they just asked if you can have a traceable for this.
I will. Yes, I'll do a traceable for sure. I think, you know what, I've got a lot of room over here. I'm trying to think if I need to do something else. I did my saguaro a little bit smaller. I always have way more room on my canvas than I have on my example, so the spacing is sometimes a little bit different. I might just add two smaller, maybe a small one here and then a bigger one here. I think I might do that. I don't know. We'll see. So off of this, the trying to remember what the name of prickly pear is the name of this cactus. So it's got these pear-shaped or kind of balloon. They look like balloon shapes to me, like that come off of it, and just kind of do different sizes. They can kind of come off at weird angles. I'm going to try to fill up this area, kind of create some movement this way. I mean, I could have put this agave on this side and curved it in, and put the prickly pear on this side and curved it in to kind of keep my focus on the inside. I don't know. But if you kind of do enough coming up towards the middle here, it'll kind of bring the eye back around. So I think it'll be okay. Did you have another question?
Oh, I was just going to let you know that Aunt Nancy has joined us.
Hey, Nancy. My Aunt Nancy lives in Phoenix, so this is kind of for her.
And we'll give a special shout out to Ella Spencer.
Ella Spencer? Who is that?
Somebody in the chat.
Oh, fun. Okay, I was making sure I didn't have to know who that was. So. Did I forget? You know me with names. Okay, I'm going to draw my bird out. My bird is going to be a circle for the head there. Hope you guys can see that, okay? And then for the body, I'm going to do kind of a teardrop shape, kind of pointing out this way. The tail is going to come up at an angle, and the feet are going to come down about the same angle there. And that's about all we need to do for him. We'll do more later, but that's the basic shape. Let's see. I feel like he's kind of leaning so much to this side. I might want to do another larger piece right here, like he's got. Maybe what I'll do this. Making design choices here live. This is fun. I'm going to put this big cactus right here, this barrel cactus right here. And that way this won't look like it's going to fall over. And so I'm going to move this over here, this large piece right here. I'm going to change this so that it makes sense right there. It kind of narrows where it makes contact, so it gives it that balloon shape kind of thing. We'll do another couple of them off here. That way, that's better. That makes me happy. Okay, now, sorry. And now we'll do the big barrel cactus right here, overlapping our saguaro just a little bit, and he'll have lines coming down like almost like a pumpkin. Okay, I'm liking that better. Good. So let's get started painting. The brushes that I'm using are pretty basic. You can use, if you've got an angle brush, these are 3/8 inch angle brushes. I'm going to see which one works better for me today. This is a Zen with Royal Langnickel. These are pretty inexpensive brushes. These ones are the Robert Simmons Sapphire, which are my favorite. You can see that I have several of them. They're one of my favorite brushes, and they're a little bit more, they've got Taklon and natural hairs, so they're a little bit softer. And then this one is my Perla Escada brush, which I absolutely love too. This is number 2. So 2 rounds, like a number 4, number 2 round, and then a small spotter and an angle brush, and that's all you'll need today. So let's get to painting. This is the fun part. I like this composition way better. Nothing like changing it up live, right? No pressure.
It just makes it exciting, that's all.
That's right, that's right. And I might bring this one up a little bit higher too. I feel like it might need to be up a little higher. So this guy was, I'm going to start this way so I don't put my hand in the wet paint. start from left to right, and I'm just going to fill in with my lime green. And like I said, if you don't have this color, you can easily mix it with, I'll show you here in a minute. I'm going to go right over the top of that agave thing and not worry about it. We'll go back and paint it back in later. So if I wanted this color, I just grabbed some Phthalo Green and some yellow. This is Cadmium Yellow Light, and I can get a very similar color. Just add a little bit, maybe a little bit of white to soften it, and there we go. Almost exactly the same color. I'll go ahead and add a little bit of that in. While it's wet, we can kind of play with the colors a little bit, so fill it in pretty quickly if you can. And then I'm going to grab some burnt siennas. It might seem like a weird color, but it's going to be our kind of shadow color for these cactus. The brown will kind of play well against the greens. So I'm going to just do a little bit of that at the bottom there. And most of these are going to be wet on wet today. We'll have a little bit of dry brushing. So if you painted this and it's not covering well, you can give it a second coat. And if you want this blending to happen and your paint's dry underneath, you can just add a little bit more of your original color and then do your other colors that you're blending in on top. So you don't have to do it as quickly as I'm doing it. If you're painting a little bit slower, that's perfectly fine. So I'm just adding a few little streaks of that brown in, just to kind of give it a little bit of a shadow on one side. We're going to shadow all of ours on that one side, so all of our cactus and everything will have the shadow on the same side. So our light source is coming from this direction. All right, that's good. That's all we need to do on him. And we'll go ahead and do the agave neck. Well, actually, I'm gonna wait and do this saguaro, and then we'll come back and do the agave since it's going to be on top of these other ones. So the saguaro, I used this Sap Green plus white, and the Sap Green was the Ultramarine Blue plus yellow. It's just kind of an olivey green color. Oh. How's it doing, hun?
Doing good. There's some people who may not be on Facebook, so they're wondering if you can post your traceables to Pinterest or some other forum, possibly.
I could, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I could probably put some on my blog. I'm grabbing a little bit of my lime green. Here, I'm just doing streaks of color on the saguaro. And I want to do it a little bit darker on this side, so I'll grab a little bit more of the dark and just, I'm using my brush kind of on its end here, and that kind of gives me the ability to make these lines. You know, the cactus has those kind of lines, spines down them. Add a little bit of water. My paint's getting sticky on me. That's better. If your paint's skipping and not soaking into the canvas well, it just might need a little bit of water. So just grab a little bit of water on your brush. Really, honestly, this doesn't have to be super clean on the edges because we're going to dot it up. If you look on our example here, we're going to add all these little dots over the top. So a lot of the streakiness and the edges and everything can be kind of cleaned up when we do those dots. So honestly, don't sweat it out too much on these like details. Don't get too bogged down by worrying about, you know, it looking perfect or something like that. I'm going to grab a little bit of Quinacridone Magenta. Might be a weird color, but look how pretty it is with that green. It'll kind of add another little color interest. Add a little bit of yellow. The only thing about the traceables on Facebook is just I feel like I can kind of control them better on Facebook than if they're just out there and anywhere. That's kind of why I've chosen Facebook to do it. But I understand. I have a girlfriend who shall not be named, that she's probably not watching this anyways. I probably could name her and she wouldn't even care. But anyhow, she is like totally anti-Facebook. She will not get on Facebook at all. So we tease her about it. I understand that totally. Okay, so just using the tip of my brush, kind of got dark up toward the top there. So I think I'm going to grab a little bit of this Unbleached Titanium and some more of this Sap Green. Maybe if you don't have the Unbleached Titanium, you can mix it with, this color is called Yellow Ochre or Yellow Oxide. They're basically the same thing. And you can, I feel like I want some yellow in this one, even though I didn't put yellow in my example one. Let's grab some of this. This is, oh, I forgot about that color. That is light magenta. I need to put a little bit more of that out. That's another mixable color. It's just basically Quinacridone Magenta and white with maybe a touch of orange or yellow to make it a little bit more of a salmon color. That's right, I used a little bit of that. Now I'm remembering. Sometimes it's been a few days since I did my example and I didn't write it down, which I didn't. It takes me a minute to remember what I used. Okay, that's the color that I used for my highlights there. So just adding a little bit of the Quinacridone Magenta white and the Sap Green over the top to kind of make my highlights on that cactus. That's good. Because of course we want the top to be a little bit lighter and brighter on this side. We'll go back in and add some more highlights and some other colors, but I think I'm going to make one of these arms almost pink. What you doing, hun?
People are saying that I'm echoing, so
oh, you're echoing.
Resolve that.
He's moving around behind me here. It's distracting. You notice I haven't really cleaned out my brush. It's getting all gummed up with all these different colors. That's fine. Unless you're going to like switch to using a white or something really bright that you don't want any of these other colors happening. It kind of gives a little bit more interest because some of these other colors that are on your brush will kind of pop off in unexpected places. And I like that look, so I kind of let it happen. So there's some streaks of green in here. Let me grab some of this lime green here and I'll add some of that in there. Add some of the pink. There we go. Just adding it in while it's wet. It's not going to add a little bit of this color in here too. Just make sure that your paint is not starting to dry. If it's starting to dry, you just need to let it set and dry completely before you continue on. Acrylics are picky. They don't like to be messed with when they're drying. So if you can tell right away because your paint will start lifting off the canvas if they're starting to dry. So if that happens, if your paint does lift off the canvas ever, the best thing to do is not to try to keep painting over the top of it, because that means you're just going to keep lifting even more paint. Best thing to do is just to stop, dry it completely, and then go back and put another coat on top of the paint. That's probably one of the most common problems that people have with acrylic. I know that was one of my worst problems because I would overblend and I would be mixing and going back over and over and over again. If I went back over here right now while this is still drying, it will lift off all of what I've done. So you just kind of have to work in small sections at a time. You know, don't try to fill in the whole thing and then go back in and blend while this is drying.
Okay, we had a question asking if there is a way that you could list what paints or colors you could mix to help come up with some of the more non-standard paints that you're using.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'll down in the description where I put like optional colors. What I can do is go back in and just put in parentheses the colors that you can use to mix those. I will do that if I remember to. Try to remember to do that. Might not be today, but I'll do that. Or you can always go back in to the part where Mark was drying, and I explained it all at the beginning when he was drying my canvas out. I explained all the different mixes that you could use. So, see, I used the Quinacridone Magenta mostly down here on the arm on that one. And then I'm going to use let's grab this green gold color. This was the Sap Green with a little bit of more yellow in it. It actually is, if you look on the bottle, it's actually Phthalo Green with Nickel Azo Yellow and Hansa Yellow Light maybe, or something like that. So, but Nickel Azo Yellow is a color that most people don't have, so it's just easier to, they're all pretty similar. It's basically just a bright yellowy olive green color. So adding a little bit of the unbleached titanium here to give it a little bit of brightness at the top. And just doing each of the arms a little bit different, you know, so that they're kind of not all the same. Matchy-matchy. Add a little bit of water. My brush is getting dry. Maybe I'll add a little bit of burnt sienna in this too, see what happens there. It gives it a nice pretty brown color. It does a similar thing to the Quinacridone Magenta. You heading out, hun? He's heading out the door. Where he went to? I lost my backup. Okay, so if you get to a tight spot like that, right, and I kind of want to get an easier angle, I can just turn it around so that I can fit my brush into that spot. Don't feel like you have to. Now, if you're painting it on the easel, you might just have to take it off the easel and turn it upside down. I'm going to thicken up that one too a little bit. But I usually like to hold my canvases. If they're smaller than like a 16 by 20, I usually just hold them so that I can do this easily and just kind of turn it around if I have to. That looks good. I like it. All right, so we'll go back in and add some highlights and some other colors to it later, but I think for now that looks really good. Let's move on to our barrel cactus here. And I'm going to make him blue. These colors are made up. So somebody was asking me about this this one, like what it was, and it is imaginary is what it is. It's kind of like the combo between an agave and a aloe that has those orangey flowers. I think the agave has the white or yellow and has different kind of shapes to the flowers. So I didn't really, some of them I kind of looked at reference photos, but really this is kind of more of a stylized cactus painting. We're not going for realism here, so just have fun with it. I'm going to spray my canvas, my palette here. It's getting a little bit dry. And if you are living in the Southwest, you'll definitely want to keep your water bottle handy because it is very dry there and you will need to spritz your canvas quite often. Okay, actually I didn't use that color. I used Phthalo Blue for my barrel cactus. So grab some Phthalo Blue and we will fill in our another pretty color. It just gets a little bit more narrow. Kind of curve it around and then bring it in. I think that's good. Yeah. How you doing, honey? I don't know where he went to. He's probably setting up in the other room so he doesn't echo me. Okay, if you notice that I'm kind of doing my brush strokes in the direction that I want those lines to go, and that way if since this is in a transparent color, that it will, any lines that show or any see-through parts will kind of already have the right direction. So I wouldn't want to fill it in this way or horizontally. I'm kind of filling it in vertically. So the middle here, I'm just going to bring it straight down. And then as I get toward the outside, I'm starting at the top and kind of curving it around.
Okay, I had to relocate to the other room because there's just too much echoing going on.
Okay.
So sorry about that, but I'm watching the chat.
You're back?
I'm back.
You're back now?
Back live.
Okay. Good. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of this light blue permanent. This is just the Phthalo Blue with a little bit of white in it. I'm going to darken it up just a little bit. And my light side's this side, so I'm going to add a little bit of that in there. Maybe a little bit brighter. Let's add some teal. That's our background color. That works. This color is so dark you don't really have to do anything. I might add a little bit of the burnt sienna in my shadow area there to kind of bring it, yeah, that works. Bring it a little bit darker on that one side. Don't want to overblend it right now because I can feel it getting a little bit tacky, so I want to leave it. That's good enough. We'll just let it dry. Okay, let's do our purple, purple cactus. So this one I'm using this violet color. This is that Quinacridone Magenta and purple, Dioxazine Purple mixture. Grab a little bit of the magenta, add that in. Grab a little bit of the purple for this other side. Add that in. So I put down the thick color. If you notice, I kind of just quickly lay down the color, and then I'm going to go back in and sort of soften up those edges by just kind of blending in the direction that I want my lines to go. So maybe add a little bit of, we'll do this first. I want to do it a little bit higher than this. So I don't want it to look like it's the same size as that one. So going a little bit higher than the barrel cactus, just so they don't look like twinsies. Okay, that's good. Now I'm going to grab some teal. This is still wet. Grab some. This is the Phthalo Turquoise, so it's equal parts Phthalo Green and Phthalo Blue. And add a little bit of white to it, and we'll just put a little bit of that in. Let me zoom in just a little bit. I feel like we're a little bit far away. There we go. That's a little bit better. Let's add some of this. This is the Ultramarine Blue and white. Oh, that's pretty. Isn't that pretty? So I still had all those other colors on my brush. It kind of blended a little bit. I'm just adding it over the top of that light side of the cactus. Very pretty. Okay, that's all I want to do. I don't want to mess with it too much. It's going to start drying, so I will let that set. And I can always add more colors later if I need to. Now let's do this next one, and we'll do it a different color. Actually, let's do this one up here with these same colors that we did down here. So we're skipping one. We're going to do this one up here. Is everybody following this okay, hon?
Yep, they're
grabbing the light ultramarine blue.
About the 50% off deals and different deals on paints that you can get.
Yes, you can.
Because not everybody's paint library is as expensive as yours is right now. True,
true. And yeah, I've added paints over the years. I'm grabbing a little tiny bit of Phthalo Blue, adding it to that light ultramarine blue color. Just a little bit. Yeah, I've even, poor Mark, because he's had many trips to Hobby Lobby with me, you know, because they only let you use one coupon per person. So I've had him and my boys all in line with me before buying paints, 40% off if I really needed something and didn't want to have to pay full price for it. Yeah, we've done all of that coupon. We're big coupon shoppers for sure. I hardly ever buy full priced any paints or anything like that for. Okay, I'm just going back in now with a little bit of this. I hope you can see my palette okay, that what colors I'm using. Just kind of lightly blending back over some of these darker areas. That's good. You're still getting an echo? Yeah. Let me turn off my, I don't know where it would be coming from. Let me turn down my speakers. Is it a big echo?
I can just hear when I talk.
When you talk?
Yeah, when I talk on Skype.
Huh. It's probably coming from the Skype then, somehow. It might be coming through my earbuds into my mic. Okay, let's see. Let's do this one blue. I'm going to do green. We'll do green, blue, 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 blue. Okay. So the blue one was this color here, this light ultramarine and phthalo. What did I say, this one? Blue. Honestly, these colors really can be anything you want them to be. They don't have to be blue and greens. They could be any number of colors that kind of work together on the color palette. But if you notice that those are all in the same color family, the magenta, purples, and blues. So any one of those is going to look good mixed together. So if you don't have these exact colors, you could use whatever colors you happen to have. Is it still echoing? Okay. We're just having all kinds of problems today. I'm going to put a little bit of this violet down here. Kind of where it attaches, I did a little bit darker, just to kind of get a little bit more color down there to make it, you know, maybe make it look like it was in shadow a little bit. Even though we're doing it whimsical, we're still kind of trying to follow the basic rules of color shadowing and that kind of thing. Okay, so just very, very light. Once I've got my paint down, if I'm going back over it to blend in another color, I'm just very, very lightly skimming it. I'm not pressing down really hard because I don't want to lift off any paint that's starting to dry. Put a little bit of color over here. It's looking good. All right, now, so for this part, I'm just going to, oh, I have one more blue one over here. I'm going to just kind of wipe off all this paint that's been gummed up on my canvas. I'll grab the ultramarine blue this time. Add a little bit of that. So, sorry, I'm thinking. Yeah. So just adding a little bit of this ultramarine blue, and then, you know, if you didn't have this color, you just add a little bit of white to it for your highlight areas. Keep it pretty dark on this bottom edge here. And then the brighter part, the top. Like that. You settled now, hon?
Yep. I'll just try to talk loud enough for everybody to hear me, and then
okay.
Go from there.
That's good.
So I'm sure I missed a ton of questions moving back and forth.
Yeah, so if you've got a question, you can ask it now. Mark's back to watch and chat, so he was in the other room for a while. Okay, so now I'm going to do these two, kind of more teal colored. So I'm going to grab this turquoise, Phthalo turquoise, and I'm going to mix it with the purple a little bit. Kind of just makes this really pretty. I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of a grayed turquoise color. And I'm trying to create that balloon shape, so I'm just using the tip of my brush to sort of draw out my border here since my chalk lines have kind of disappeared. Get a little bit more water in my brush. Maybe a little bit of white. Actually, I think I used this light blue permanent with this one. Yeah, that's good.
I want to know what brush you're using.
This is a 3/8 inch angle brush. This is my Robert Simmons, Simply Simmons, or I'm not Simply Simmons. This one is the Sapphire line, which the Sapphire have the blue handles. Their Sapphire brushes are Takalon, and Takalon is just like a synthetic fiber. It's the technical name for the kind of fiber. And nylon is another kind of brush that you could use. Any of your synthetics are what you're going to want to grab for these kind of acrylics. You want to have them to not be too soft, because the watercolor brushes are generally made out of natural fibers, and they soak in the paint really well because you want a lot of water. Well, they soak in the water, and they hold a lot of water, but they're super soft, and their acrylics are very hard on natural fiber. They'll eat them up really quick. So if you use acrylics with your natural fiber brushes, one, they won't let you, they won't give you the control because they're too, these paints, especially the heavy body paints, are too thick for a natural bristle brush. They would just be like painting with a mop, you know. It's just too sloppy. But any of these synthetic, this one is actually a mix of natural and synthetics though, and then it's got enough of the synthetic in it that it gives it, it soaks up a lot of paint, and it gives you the control that I need for painting. So
you want to know which do you prefer, the Simply Simmons or the Sapphire?
Definitely Sapphire. Sapphire are more expensive though. Simply Simmons are, if you get, I've had my students get the Simply Simmons before, and they come in like a set, and they've been really like bad. Like, so you kind of have to get the right Simply Simmons, and some of them are not as good as others for some reason. I don't really know why, but they have different fibers, strengths, and I think it's the, let me see if I can find one of my Simply Simmons brushes. I think it's the, well, it doesn't even say on here, but these ones are a little bit firmer than some of their other brushes. The other one that I really, really like is the titanium, and I do have a link to the titanium in my description below, because I got this set and it had this brush, and I think this one, and this one, and where's the round? Maybe this one, I don't remember. No, it's this one. I think it had all four of those. and they were like, oh, $15 or something, and that's a really, really good price on these. And these are a lot firmer. They're totally synthetic, and they're a lot firmer than the sapphire brushes. So if you're using heavy body acrylics mainly, then you probably want to get the firmer brushes. If you're using a little bit of both, the sapphire are better, but I'm just used to using the sapphire. I don't mind them with the heavy body acrylics. They seem to do just fine with them as well, but they are a little bit softer, so you have to add a little bit of water to them to get them to work with you. Okay, let me grab a little bit of purple. We'll add a little bit of purple to these. That's better.
You can always click on your link below for your brushes.
Yes, yeah, that's. I just said that. They're in the link. The titanium line is in the link. That set that had the 4 brushes, because I was happy to find it on Amazon. And I just bought that set myself, and they've been working really well for me. Okay, so now I've got this purple, and I still had the green in my brush, so it's kind of making this sort of a blue gray color, purpley. The more that I do it, it's going to be straight purple, but I'm just adding a little bit of the purple to some of these areas here to darken them up. We'll go back in and add some highlights to it too. If you get over the top of your thing there, you can just grab a little bit of that highlight color and go back over it. And if you're having trouble with this technique, you could let this dry completely and you could float your colors. I'll show you how to do that here. I think this one is dry. I'll show you how to float really quick. Floating is a really great way for beginners to shadow and shade. So say I want some really dark purple down here. I've got my angle brush and it's clean now. And I'm going to just dip the tip of it into my purple here. Find a clean spot on my palette and run it back and forth so that it's just kind of blended like an ombre blend. I'm going to do it twice. It still had a little bit of blue in my paint brush, but I'm not worried about that too much. But I just want to make sure that this bottom edges doesn't have the purple all the way through to it. Okay, so now I'm going to set it down over here where I want this dark purple to go. And I'm going to lay the dark purple right up against the edge. And I'm just going to pull it and blend with it, and it'll give you this beautiful shadow right there where you want it. Now, if you want it farther out, you can go back over next to it while it's still wet and add a couple more lines of the shadow, and that'll pull that color a little bit that way. Okay. You can also double load your brush, so let's double load. Let me see. Let's double load on this guy. So he was the lime green, so I'm going to put the lime green on the tip this time since my highlight color is on that side. If my highlight color was on the back side, I would put it on the back side of my thing. But usually when I'm double loading, I put the brighter color on the tip. Then I'm going to put this burnt sienna on the back side. So I'm going to grab a little bit. I've loaded the green all the way through my brush. Now I'm picking up the burnt sienna just on that back side, and this is double loading. And blend it out. Pick up a little bit more of that lighter color. Blend it back in. That's good enough. Now let's go along here and we'll do a little bit of that darker color along that edge. What that does is just kind of gives it that ombre look without, you don't have to worry about blending it exactly. So everywhere that I do this, it's going to be pre-blended because we have this solid green color on this side, right? So that's what's on our tip of our brush. So we blended it out here on our palette already. So when we brush it in with that dark back end of it against that far side there, it's just automatically going to blend our colors out. Now I'm going to turn it this way and just kind of use it and let it do some lines, because we do want this to be kind of streaked. I think that just darkened it up a little bit. All right, so we're pretty much almost done with our background basing in. Let's get our agave here filled in. This is turquoise, and a little bit of, we'll double load a little bit of that. And if you notice, I do the double loading quite a lot without even realizing I'm doing it, because it's just kind of good. It gives you a little bit more control, having a little bit brighter color on the tip.
Shelly wants to know if using a pad of watercolor paper would be okay.
Yeah. Yep. Watercolor paper will work just fine. It's thick enough, as long as it's a thicker quality watercolor paper. But yes, it should work just fine. So I'm just doing my zigzag lines. I'm not worried really too much right now where my individual leaves are. I can go back in while it's wet and add a little bit of this light color to one side. If I decide that's where I want that color to be. I'm going to go over the top of my feral cactus, or my, I don't know what this one would be called. Somebody probably knows. Kind of just looked up different pictures of cactus. Of course, I knew most of these from growing up. We used to, Mark and I, one of our favorite date night things, or date things to do would be to go wander around in the desert and get stuck by cactus. The cholla cactus, I don't know if anybody knows, I think they're called cholla, right? Yeah. They're like this big furry, crazy, wild, like tangled hair thing. And I mean, if you get within this close, or a foot of it, it'll get on you. I don't know. They literally, I think they jump. They like send out these little hairy feelers. Like they have a really fine like feelers that you can't even see. And yeah, it's like a century. Yeah, this one, century plant that I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, they're like the devil. So anytime we saw those, we go way far, because they burn like crazy if they got on your skin. Huh? Yeah, it's like fiberglass in your skin, and they get so embedded you can't like pick it out like a needle. You can't. So yeah, some cactus are a little more friendly than others. That one's definitely evil. Yeah, there is some cactus growing in Arkansas. There's a lot of this prickly pear growing here. We had prickly pear in our yard, our first house here in Arkansas. Yeah, we were really surprised to see it here. I'm just doing a few more like little ones that are a little shorter, that maybe are behind the others. So, and kind of doing sort of a bowl shape, if you think about it. So they're all kind of curving up. These ones are kind of going straight almost, and then these ones are kind of curving up and around, like creating a cup almost.
I want to know what color your nail polish is.
My nail polish today was fuchsia, or it's like this violet. I was trying to get it. It's actually probably Quinacridone Magenta. Honestly, that's probably the closest to the color. Yeah, I thought I was getting like a violet color, but when I put it on, it changed colors. So it was kind of not the color that I thought it was going to be, but that's fine. It's more of a... So let me see. Let's keep going with these. So this, oops, I grabbed some. That's actually pretty. Let me do a little bit more of that. I grabbed some Phthalo Blue there. Do a little bit more of the blue on this side that's in the shade. It was a happy accident. That's good. I feel like I want it to be overlapping my saguaro a little bit, but I don't know. He's a little far away for it. Do one right here. It kind of. There we go. Cute. All right, so now let's go back in with the light blue permanent and do some highlight lines just to kind of define some of these that we want to be in front. That one will be behind, so we'll go get some purple here. Go over the top of that.
Grab some of the... says that she loves your work and that you can inspire her to start painting.
Oh, who? What's the name?
Maureen.
Maureen. Oh yeah, I think she's in my Thankful Art group. Got some of the Ultramarine Blue with white here, the white ultramarine. That's really cool, Maureen. That is exactly what I was hoping when I did, when I started doing my YouTube videos. That's what makes me so happy, is when people say that they hadn't painted for a long time, or they've always wanted to paint and didn't think they could, and they have started painting after seeing some of these videos, because that's kind of what it's all about. It's definitely trying to take the mystery out of it. It's just breaking down these simple steps anybody can do. Okay, and really it just takes some practice. I'm just I added a little bit of white to my Phthalo Blue there. It's really that same color there. I don't know why I did that, but just talking. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time and explain what I'm doing. Sometimes it's like a right brain thing that it fights you.
Yeah, usually you're just listening to music.
Yeah, usually I'm just, exactly. Well, I definitely can't design and paint. Like, I can do this one because I've already done it, but if I'm trying to design a painting, there's a lot of quiet going on. There's a lot of thinking going on. I don't talk, or, of course I'm by myself, so that would be weird anyways if I did. But when I'm with, with my students and stuff, I always work out the process ahead of time. So I've got the ultramarine blue, light ultramarine blue, and a little bit of this light blue permanent, and I'm just going to go over and lightly dry brush some highlights. Now, by dry brush, I just mean exactly that. My brush does not have a lot of water in it, and I have very little paint in my brush, and I'm just going to lightly skim it over the top in some areas, and it will pull off a little bit of paint in the areas where the paint's kind of sticking up. So if there's any texture on your canvas, it'll help kind of grab that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of gessoing. I'm not going right up against the edge either. I'm just kind of coming just in just a little bit. But I get asked questions about gessoing my canvases a lot, and I personally don't do it, because if you're buying any of the prefab canvases that you get nowadays are going to be gessoed already. They're going to have gesso, 2 or 3 layers of gesso on them already. But some people don't like all this extra texture that you get on the canvases. Sometimes the cheaper canvases are not gessoed very well, and so they can be hard for the paint to absorb in. So in that case, if you're buying the really, really cheap canvases in the multi-packs, you might want to get some gesso and paint on them, or paint them in with some gesso ahead of time. But if you're just doing a decent canvas, and if you spritz down the canvas with a little bit of water, the paint should absorb right in, and it's already got the gesso there. So that gesso is just a prep. It's just making the canvas accept the paint a little bit easier. Okay, that's good. So you can see now they kind of have a little bit more depth going on. I'm going to grab a little bit of my white and lime green just on the tip of my brush here, and I'm going to go back over and give them each just like one little swipe. And honestly, you could leave this part out. It does make them look a little bit more like round than they are. They're a flat cactus, so. But I kind of like the little highlights, so I did it. You can do it more in the middle if you want.
Just want to say thanks to everybody who's stopping by this afternoon to watch, and hit like and subscribe. Yeah.
Yes. I've got lots of videos for beginners. I've got a playlist of all my beginner videos, so. And then I've got one for a little bit more advanced paintings. This one would probably be maybe a second, or I would say this one I wouldn't do maybe as a first painting, but maybe, you know, a third or fourth painting. Once you get used to using the brushes a little bit, it'll be easier to do a painting like this. The techniques aren't necessarily hard, it's just all of this kind of filling in might be a little bit difficult, but.
And Charlie's just joined us. He
Hi, Charlie.
missed the hair drying episode, but
Oh, man.
glad that you joined us, Charlie.
You couldn't even hear the hair drying, Charlie, so you didn't miss much. It was in the other room, so. I'm using I'm going to switch over now to my number 2 brush here. I'm using this Cobalt Violet. I'm almost out of it here. And I'm just using it for these little buds. And these are little teardrop shapes again. I was looking at cactus pictures, you know, just to kind of see the blossoms and stuff. And these ones especially, they actually, like, they look so weird because they actually line up like a crown at the top of the cactuses. They're really cool looking. So. I feel like I want something over here. I think I forgot to do one over here, so maybe we'll just put a couple buds over here. This bud's for you. And these kind of details you can kind of control the flow of the painting too, you know, so if you've got some pointing this direction and you feel like it's kind of all visually going in this direction, you can put some on this other side to kind of balance it out and bring it back in this way. So I think that's good for now because we're going to put a lot of flowers on all of this, so we don't need too many buds. I might put one more big. So let's do a blue one down here. Well, no, I'm not going to get too detailed. Okay, stop. Stop, stop. I swear. I get to doing this and it's just like, oh, I could do that and then I could do that. I see things that I want to do that I didn't do the first time. Just stick to the program. Okay, I've got this light green color here and I'm going to use it over here on this one. It's the light green and white. I might even grab a little bit of yellow to really brighten it up even more. When you're mixing with white and you want a bright color, you're going to use probably, you know, 10 parts or 5 parts white to one tiny little part of the paint. So depending on how bright you want it, but so don't mix up, you know, don't try to mix your color into here. Just pull off a little bit like I do, you know, pull a little bit of this color off, grab a little bit of this color on the tip of your brush and mix it into a new spot. That way you don't muddy up your whole big adding this color. I'm just going to pull down some long streaks. My liner brush. Well, that's actually my number 2 round brush. And then I'm thinking that's a little bit too bright, so I'm going to grab some of my original color back in and just kind of go back over that a little bit and just soften it up. So nothing too fancy. If you get it over the top of someplace you don't want it, you can use your wet paper towel and wipe it off while it's wet. I feel like this agave needs to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to grab some of that turquoise color, maybe a little bit of Phthalo Blue, and just go along the back side here and just give it a little bit of a brighter, and down at the bottom, a few little streaks. Now we're getting into the kind of fun part where we're sort of just putting in our details. These are really easy, like not too fussy. That's the word I'm looking for. Don't be too fussy about it. Let your brush strokes show. That kind of gives it a little bit more life. So it doesn't have to be perfect. That's good. Let's grab some of my teal color. And I'm going to grab some Phthalo Green, add that to it. So if you're mixing this, you just would use a little bit more of your Phthalo Green with your Phthalo Blue and white to make this more greenish aqua color. Add a little bit of white to it. That's pretty. Okay, so let's use that to streak in. Oh, I like that. On this agave, kind of using it sort of in my brightest areas. I'm not going all the way down to the bottom. Whoops, that's the wrong color right there. There we go. Okay. Let's use a little bit of this color over. I feel like this guy got very purple, so I want to get some of this green. I'm going to move to a bigger brush again. I'm going to grab some of that green color with this angle brush, and I'm going to pull it down from the top on this shadow side. There we go. Using very little paint here. Put a little bit over here too. Okay, that's better. Kind of like that. Wanted a little bit of that green over here to balance it out. Let's put some streaks in this guy here. I'll still use this brush while I've got it out. Grab the magenta and the light magenta and the Quinacridone Magenta. And I want to make sure that I don't have too much paint on my brush, because I don't want a big, huge streak of pink down the middle of my cactus. So I'm wiping off most of it, and I'm going to just dry brush that color over the top of the middle of my saguaro there. Grab a little bit more, wipe it off, and brush it over. And I'm holding my brush upright, so that just the tip is kind of dragging on my canvas here. That's looking good. Let's add a little bit of this bright yellow green highlight. Again, wipe off some of it. Start at the top. Ooh, that's bright. That's good. I'll pull it down here. Sorry. Off camera. I'll do that on each one of these. Just try to keep my lines vertical here so that they're following the outside lines of my cactus. Whoop. There we go. Okay, I think that that's pretty good. Put some highlights on this guy. Let's put our center line on this while I'm thinking about it.
Linda wants to know, did you say the bluish cactus is flattish?
This one is flat. Yeah, this one's more flat. These, they're thin. They're probably like that thin, and then they're wide.
Oh, okay, the
prickly pear ones. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you could do some that were kind of angled away at you, but they kind of do grow this way. They sort of grow almost flat up against each other that way. So, okay, we need a cactus on him. Sorry. Here's our mascot. So, what kind do we want? We'll do a little barrel cactus right here.
I'm sure we get new viewers each week. What the heck is going on?
Yeah, I know. This is Mark's stickman creation that he added to some of my paintings. He was trying to get in on the fun, and so he will give it a highlight. There we go. There's our cactus. It looks a little bit like a pickle. We'll add a flower to it maybe later. It does look like a pickle, doesn't it? So anyhow, we add something to it every week. Last week we did the drip flowers. We did the drip clouds. Yeah, and then the birds were one of the weeks. We did the flag. We went to Paris and did the scarf for the Paris thing, and we went to the ocean.
Oh yeah.
So I've got my desert and ocean next to each other here. So. Anyhow, he gets an addition every week. I'm going to use some of this Phthalo Green. I really like this color. I think I'm going to just add it in some streaks down at the bottom of my saguaro here. I want to do all of my shadowing and highlighting before I do my dot details, because you really can't do it afterwards. Once you get those dots on there, you pretty much stuck with what's underneath, because you definitely don't want to have to try to paint around them to add other colors. So just make sure that you kind of do all of your detail stuff ahead of time. Adding a little bit of this dark green. This is just the Phthalo Green with a little bit of the Sap Green mixed in. Let's add a little bit of it to my saguaro. And we'll be using the Sap Green and Lime Green to do our dots on this guy, so we don't need to have it too detailed. I kind of like, I think I used this color. Let me use a little bit of my light. Yes, I did. Okay. My Cadmium Red Light and magenta, light magenta color to make like a salmon-y orange color there. And I'm going to use that in this cactus too. Ooh, there we go. Give it some bright coral color. Okay, that's better. Oops, off camera. You're not telling me. You've got to be my policeman here.
I'm not doing a very good job. I was excited I got to use a blow dryer today, so I haven't been the same since.
Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of this color to my Sap Green. That was my base color for my saguaro, and I'm just going to go back over it a little bit with a few streaks to soften it up if it got too bright. That's better. Okay, I think we're getting pretty close to putting in some of our details. I feel like this one is still too dark though. Let's add a little bit of this yellow color to him and see what happens. There we go. That's the cadmium yellow deep. It's kind of a orangey, way more orangey yellow. So if you don't have this, you could use cadmium yellow and just add some orange to it, or add a little bit of tiny bit of red to it, and it would get you something similar. Okay, I'm way over blending this middle part. It's just going to be a muddy mess, so I need to stop and let it dry. I need some streaks of this magenta in it though, make me happier. I'm looking, what's the problem is I'm looking at mine and my example, and I used a little bit more magenta and orange in the background, and so it's just lighter than this one is, and that's bugging me, but add a little bit of white to it. Okay, that's good. I'm going to leave it. You stop. Barrel cactus, I'm going to grab a little bit of this bright green. Maybe a little bit of the teal too. And I'm just going to put some, actually I want a different brush. I'm going to use my number 2 for this. So this is my light green and teal color. And I'm just going to kind of lightly dry brush where I want my spines to go. So the first one will be right down the middle, almost straight down. Got a little bit of water in there I didn't want. Then I'm going to start here at the tip and sort of go around the outside and curve it in. Look at your outside line here, and you kind of want to mimic that. So I'm going to put almost think of like a pumpkin. It's starting to rain here. Okay, so that'll give me sort of a focus for when I do my details on here. And we're about, oh, we need to do the stem on this. And we're about ready to have some fun and do some dots and things. So I kind of figured that this might be a 2-hour painting. I don't know. It just has a lot of details. It's not particularly difficult. I'm going to mix up some more of that teal. Just I'm out of it, but I'm going to use my Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green to make it. Grab a little bit of white to soften it up, and I'm going to use the edge of my angle brush and just pull down my line. Try to just kind of do it smoothly all the way down. It might break up a little bit. That's okay. Pick up a little bit more water, add it to your color, and go back over. Whoop. If you press down a little bit harder where it gets closer to the bottom, you get a thicker line. And then I'm just going to use it to draw in where I want my branches for this flowery, whatever top of this to go. I'm going to use the tip just to kind of draw in a few little branchy things. Not getting too detailed because most of this is going to be just covered up with flowers anyways, but that'll be that. Let me grab my little, oops. What are you doing?
Sorry, it started raining.
I know.
Had to put the umbrella down.
Ah, okay. You're being very distracting today, in and out and in and out.
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put you on timeout. Okay, now that this is dry, I'm gonna use my damp towel and just kind of wipe off some of this chalk marks because I don't really want to see these. Oh, I still need to do my little bird too. And just make sure your paint's dry before you do this. This just gives us a better idea of what we've got without all those lines distracting us. Be careful on here because these are still wet. Okay, that's good. Let's put in our little bird, and then we'll start getting to work on our details here. I'm going to grab my number 4 round for the bird, and I kind of feel like I want him to be red. I'm going to use this orangey color. My paints are getting dry. Spray them down. Grab a little bit of that magenta, light magenta, just the Quinacridone Magenta and white. Make a salmon color for our little bird here. I'll do a circle for the head, then the body, the teardrop shape kind of overlaps the head a little bit and curves back. His wings. Actually, I didn't plan that out very well. Let me add a little bit of white in, because now that I'm thinking about it, his beak's going to be that color. Probably, or we can make his beak black, I guess.
Okay, got a question. Is there a way to mix some paints to come up with the colors that are close to Phthalo Blue and Sap Green?
The Sap Green, if you have Ultramarine Blue and yellow, you can just use those two to make the Sap Green, because it's a mixed color, and it's just a okay. There's my tail. Tail seems very long. The Phthalo Blue is just a greenish blue. The one that I'm using is the green shade of the Phthalo Blue. So you can add a little bit. It's really not mixable necessarily because it's a darker blue. It would depend on what blues that she has. But you can add a little bit of green to some of your blues and try to get something similar. Cerulean blue? Cerulean blue is probably closer. Grab my color sheet here. There's Phthalo Blue Green, and there's Cerulean. So it's, oops, sorry. So there's Phthalo Blue Green, there's Cerulean. So they're similar. They're in the same color palette. The Cerulean is a little bit more of the green blue, so that would work as a substitute. It's not quite as dark, but we kind of lightened it up anyway, so I don't think it would matter. Okay, let's use this light yellow color, this cadmium yellow deep. Oh, let me switch to my spotter now. If you have a liner brush, you can use that. This one's just a little spotter that I like to use. Grab a little bit of this yellow too. I don't know. Let's put in his legs. The legs kind of angle out towards the body, so kind of the same angle as we did our tail. Keep them fairly thin. And then for the beak, I'm just going to do a little triangle shape and a little triangle on the face too, right in the middle of my circle there. I'll grab a little bit of the yellow, maybe try to get it a little bit brighter. If it's not showing up, you could always do the beak in like black or something like that. Oops, it's getting awfully big. All right, then I'm going to grab a little bit of black. If you don't have black, you could use your purple. But I think everybody's got black, probably. And just dot in the eye. If you want a perfectly round little circle, you could use a little toothpick to put the eye in. That's just a little trick, decorative painting trick. I'm going to use some white and put in some details on the feathers here. Just do some sort of right up where the head ends there. This wing will kind of come back around. It'll be basically the same as the body shape, only a little bit smaller. And just do a few little lines like that. Maybe put a couple streaks in the tail and you're good. Good to go. This actually will come out to this point. Very simple little bird. We're not doing too much detail on these, so just kind of giving him a little bit of color. Cute, right? All right, now I'm going to use this detail brush. Let's start laying in some flowers and our details on our cactus. Let's do this guy down here. I'm going to grab the yellow, cadmium yellow light, but you could use cadmium yellow medium if you don't have the cadmium yellow light. Cadmium yellow light's just got a little bit, it's a little bit lighter and it's got a little bit more of a green tone to it. I'm going to grab a little bit of white. And I'm going to use this brush, and this is where I'm going to go fast and not really, because I don't want it to take forever, right? So I'm just going to do little X's all the way down these lines that I did. And if some of them are bigger than others, don't worry about it. That's fine. Little X's. Little star shapes you can do. I mean, if you want to get super detailed and go carefully down, you could do little star shapes, another little star shape. I mean, it would take a long time to do it that way, but it'd be very clean and, you know, perfect. So this is your painting. You can do it however detailed you want. If you want it to get super detailed, I just kind of did it fast. Just a little kind of back and forth with my brush. Barely touching it down. Just get a lot of paint loaded up on the tip of your brush, and using the smaller brush helps because the tip's already small, so having it loaded thick won't get too, you won't have too big of a lines. Just kind of indicating that there's some little needles sticking out. Do I need to zoom in, or is this good enough?
I think it's good.
Good. Okay.
Yep.
And this is where it helps that we already did our kind of line, so we know where to put these at. That's good. That's pretty much all you do. You can go back in now. If I wanted to get, you know, a little fancier, I could grab some of my burnt sienna and come back in and do a few of the burnt sienna down toward the bottom. Just a few dots and dabs with the burnt sienna to kind of give it a little bit of a look like it's shadowed, and these are darker underneath here, going up. So clean that out. Now for the prickly pear, you're going to use Dioxazine Purple. Adding a little bit of water. Just having a little bit of water helps it flow a little bit better when you're using these liner brushes or these smaller brushes. You could use a craft paint for this part. If you have craft paint, you can use a stylus if you want all of your circles to be perfectly round. You know, get yourself one of these stylus tools and you can do dots that are perfectly round little circles with it. I am not going to be that meticulous with it. I'm just going to dab it on with my brush and just kind of set it down and let it sort of splat out. These are pretty evenly spaced on the prickly pear, so just try to kind of keep that in mind when you're doing them. Sort of try to leave even spaces in between them. And I really don't have any set way of doing it. I just kind of start and then kind of go in between. So, you know, if I got one here and here, then I'm doing one in between. And here, I'm doing one in between. Here and here in between. Just kind of trying to fill up my empty spaces without crowding them out too much. Just dotting. Lots of little dots. Okay, that's good. Go on to your next one. Put a few on your little dealies there. These are going to look really weird at first. You're going to think, oh, I'm ruining this. But it's fine. Just kind of bear with me here. This part is a little bit shocking because it's so dark against our other colors. But we're going to add another color on top of this, and that'll tone it down. So, oops, try not to get them too big. If you get one too big, you can always kind of fix it in the next step. When we do our next color over the top, you can kind of make the dot a little bit smaller just by kind of adding the other color over the top of wherever it's too thick. But I'm just keep adding these dots. This is where I'm saying it's not particularly hard, it's just a little bit tedious because there's a lot of little details here in the cactus you want. Just take your time. If your hand's starting to get tired or you're tired of this, go do some, take a break, shake out your hand, come back, get a snack, get a nice beverage, tasty beverage. It's actually kind of relaxing in a way. It's a little zen. You just kind of little dots. Quickly, don't stress out about the placement too much. When I was first learning to paint, something like that where I kind of made a little mistake or it was a little bit bigger than the rest of them would have like thrown me off the deep end, and I would have like erased it and gone back over it and like, you know, tried to cover it with my base color or whatever, you know, I would have stressed out. Now it's like, whatever, you know, it honestly, little imperfections and things like that make it look more realistic. So having them all perfectly spaced and perfectly the same size is a little bit less natural, you know, because the natural world we're all different shapes and sizes, aren't we? There's a lot of randomness in nature, so having everything perfectly symmetrical is a little bit out of place in nature. So that,
I would say you're very brave in doing all the bottom dots first and then having to hover your hand over them as you
I know,
do the top
I know.
ones.
Yeah, I kind of started in the wrong place, didn't I? Okay, so I'm keeping on going here, just making my dots all the way on this little prickly pear cactus. Are we keeping people's interest here? Is this like, are we losing people?
There's 88 likes.
Awesome.
There's 70 people watching right now.
Awesome,
So,
awesome.
click like if you haven't already and subscribe to the channel.
You can share this on your social media if you've got Pinterest or Twitter or Facebook. And share, that helps me out tremendously, getting the word out. If you have other people that you know that like to paint, share it with them. We just hit 37,000 subscribers this week. That was amazing. I remember when I first started out, I don't know. Never in a million years would have thought we would be doing live shows with this many subscribers, and that's crazy. So, okay, so that's good, right? Now we're going to grab this light ultramarine blue. If you don't have it, just add white to your ultramarine blue. Add a little bit of water to it to soften it up. My paints are starting to dry out, and spray them again. Okay, now I'm going to go back over these and let's see if my bird is dry. He's dry. I'm going to wipe him off. Now I'm going to go back over these and do another dot in the center of all these little purple dots that I did before. Trying to cover it up completely. You want a little bit of it to show, so maybe you can go do it just above it if you need to. But isn't that cool how that just immediately, it looks so much better. It's amazing. So you could do your purple dots a little bit bigger maybe than I did mine, and then do these a little bit smaller, just so you don't have trouble. But this is where I said, you know, if you have one that's like really large, you can just put your little dab over the top of it and it'll kind of help tone it down a little bit. Dot, 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 dot. Lots of dots here. Let's start going a little faster.
One question came up on how long have you been painting and have you had any formal training?
I did learn, well, I started painting in high school. So that was, you know, 87, 88, 1988. I had painted before that casually, but then I kind of really started drawing and painting them more in high school. And then in college, I went for my art degree, and I really didn't like painting in college that much because it didn't teach me techniques. So they kind of more taught you theory, and at least the one that I went to, you know, color theory and that kind of thing, and drawing. Drawing is the best thing that I've got out of college. And but I wanted to learn. Well, I actually had this talk in my Thankful Art group last week. I talked about my art journey and kind of how I got into painting. But I do chats on my Thankful Art group in Facebook every Monday. So if you want to join me there, it's a really fun group. The people are really nice. Rule number 1 is be kind and don't give mean comments. If criticism or, you know, critique is asked for, be kind in your answers and that kind of thing. So, you know, if you just learning to paint and want a friendly place to share your artwork, it's a great place to go. And I don't want people to feel scared to share anything, thinking that people are going to make fun of it or anything like that. And there are art groups that do that, sadly. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more of my turquoise out here. And actually, no, I'm not going to. I'm just going to mix it. I already have the Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green in there. But yeah, so gosh, how long is that? 80, almost 30 years painting. And then I did toll painting for a long time. I'm mixing my Phthalo Blue and Phthalo Green here to make my turquoise color. I learned out of books. After college, I started doing decorative painting and did that for a long time. So that's where like the floating and some of these other techniques that are not necessarily fine art techniques came from. Okay, I'm going to do dots on this guy, and I'm going to start at the top here and just do dots right down the middle, and I'm just skipping my hand down, not just trying to kind of keep it vertical, but not really worrying about placement too much. Do it along the outside edges. Kind of dragging it a little bit as I do it. So some of them are dots and dashes. And then I'm going to go right in the middle here. So I'm going to kind of try to split the middle. Curve it down from the top and there we go. Easy, right? Isn't that fun? Cute. All right, now I'm going to grab a little bit of my light blue permanent. That was the phthalo blue and white color. And I'm going to just dot over the top of a few of these with that. Just to add another little layer of interest. Just having that extra little detail in there helps tremendously. Really make a big difference in your paintings. Layers, layers, layers. That's what I'm all about. Makes a huge difference. Okay, done. Isn't that cute? See how you can see all the other like streaks and things underneath now? They kind of look more intentional than they did before. You know what I'm realizing? I used the blue color on that one, not the light. I'm looking at my example. I'm going to use some of the blue in this one and just add a few blue dots to this one. Yeah, that's even better. I was thinking it looked awfully purple. It's all right. Live shows, gotta love it. So this part would be edited out if I'd done it before recording. Okay, that's good enough. I'm not going to worry about it. Now on this guy, I'm going to give him some spines. I'm going to use my, let's go ahead and mix up. I'm out of my violet color, so I'm going to mix purple and Quinacridone Magenta and make a violet. Just use up what's on my palette here. Use a little bit more quinacridone if you wanted more orange, more reddish. Use a little bit more of the purple if you want it more of a purpley color. That's good enough, I think. I'm going to scoop some up on my brush here because I'm going to move pretty quickly. So I'm not like being careful to twist it to a point with this. I'm just kind of scooping it up on the brush so that it's fairly thickly loaded with paint. That way I can move quickly like I did with this one. I'm just going to quickly make some little lines on the outer edges of that plant. Little spines. So now wherever it went over, some of them I'm only doing on one side because maybe that other side is kind of hidden. It's like turned on its side. And some of them I'm going to go along both sides of it because I can see the whole leaf. So you decide on yours how you want your leaves to fall. I will trace this and have this for you to use on yours though, so you can see how I did mine. All the way down on that one. And this one's ending right here where this one came in. And this one is so dark you can't really see it. Just kind of setting it down at where I want it to start and pulling in towards the leaf here, just to give it some little spines. You know, those edges are kind of spiny. Okay, now I'm going to grab some of my magenta, my light blue, light ultramarine blue. Sorry, I said magenta, I don't know why. And use that to dot in, especially in these darker areas, just some of those little spines. Give it another little detail. So just like we did on the prickly pear, we're just going to go back over just a few of them this time. I'm not going to go all the way down with it and make sure that I cover the whole thing. I'm just going to give a few little dots there. Good. I'm going to grab some white now and a little bit of my green. And I also did a few dots in the center of the agave with this color. Just a few little dots right down the middle of some of these. I don't know if they even have that detail, but I kind of felt like I wanted some dots in it, so there we go. Good. That's it. Very simple. Okay, so now on the stem, I'm just going to use what's on my brush here and just lightly dry brush on the stem there. Maybe grab a little bit more of my turquoise color. Just get this teal color. Put a little bit of that in there. Soften it up. How's it going, hon?
I had a question about mixed media.
Okay.
So you did mixed media painting.
Mm-hmm.
Were you using real newspapers?
Yes, yes. Which are not acid free, so it would not be an archival type artwork that will be, you know, the same in, you know, 100 years or whatever. But for my uses, that if you were worried about that, you could copy it on, you know, with acid free inks or onto acid free paper and that kind of thing. But yeah, the newspaper was not okay. So I've got the Sap Green, and I'm grabbing a little bit of the light green on the tip, and I'm going to use that just like I did on this one here. This time I've got the two colors on. It'll just save me a little bit of time. And I'm dotting down the edge of my saguaro cactus with it. And this is where, like, if your edges are fuzzy, you can kind of clean them up. Oops, I'm kind of going off the edge there. Sorry. Yeah. All right, let's do this on. Ooh, it's bright. That's all right. Just dabbing all the way down both sides. Got a little bit of the light green on the tip.
My fans are screaming for more hair dryer.
More hair dryer.
Yeah, so you can't have enough hair dryer, so I might have to pull it out here again.
I don't.
Charlie wasn't here for the
Oh,
hair drying portion, so I'm gonna have to squeeze it in somewhere here.
Are you? Okay. I don't know where.
When you least expect it.
Okay. You're a mess.
Wanted to know what kind of glue you use, I guess, with your mixed media.
Well, if I'm doing it with my kids, you know, kids classes, I just use Mod Podge. But if I'm doing it, you know, to something to, you know, that I want to stay nice, I will use my media, like a gel medium or gloss gel. I have a Liquitex. Depends on if you want a thinner or thicker application. You know, if you want to see your brush strokes through, you could use a heavy body gel. Any of the gel mediums will glue. And it'll say right on the bottle, will you hand me one of my gels there? They're kind of just right out of reach. Turn it a little bit. There's that gloss gel there.
This?
Yeah. Something like this will work, and it'll say on here that ideal for binder for pigments, collage adhesive. So look for like something that says collage adhesive or something like that, and it'll be fine for using for mixed media type stuff. But all of those kind of gel mediums and things will work for that pretty much. I mean, like blending medium is not going to work for it, but any of the gels or my gloss medium and varnish works well, but it's thin, you know, so it's a thinner application. So you wouldn't be able to glue down a heavy paper with it necessarily if you've got, you know, the thicker the paper, the thicker you want your medium, I would say, just so that it can hold it down. I'm doing just like I did this one. I'm just doing lines right down the middle. In my darker areas, I'm adding a little bit more of my light color, and in my lighter areas, I'm adding a little bit more of the dark color. Just going down in between, not getting too fussy with it. No fuss, that's the word of the day. Adding a little bit more of this light green, the lime green. And like I said before, I showed, you know, how you can mix this with phthalo green and yellow. So I would say you could mix up a little bit on your palette ahead of time and just keep it wet, and it'll stay nice for you long enough to use this for this painting. Okay, do the arms. Just lots of details here. I don't know. This is one of those where I get toward the end of a 2-hour painting and think, why did I pick something so detailed? But I was in the mood for cactus today. I don't know why. I'm starting to see them more and more, I think, in decorating. So I think the Southwestern kind of thing is kind of a trend right now. You see a lot of succulents and things. So it's a good. Isn't that fun? Really easy. Very, very easy. You can just dab it on. Small dabs, not really pressing down very hard. Let's do the middle of this guy, this big guy. I like to get my hand in the paint. A little bit more of the dark. If you want to, you can draw with your chalk over the top if you're worried about your lines, but I'm doing it down the middle like this. It's just as long as every now and then you kind of just make sure you're not getting too far to one side with your line. It's not too hard. And just split that down the middle. Yeah, mixed media, I use that a lot in my backgrounds for my paintings anymore. Like I did my bluebird painting that I did last year, used paper that I copied off of an old dictionary in the background, and I glued it on with my with my gel medium that I had. I think it was matte medium. I'm pretty sure it was matte medium. That's just a bottle, and it was. The matte medium is like it's the same texture as Mod Podge, so it's a thinner gel or thinner medium, and I dumped it in my lap. I dumped the bottle over, and it spilled all in my lap, and I mean down into my toes. It was that bad. I spilled the entire full bottle onto my lap. It was bad, and my studio is on the opposite side of the house from my bedroom, so fortunately nobody was home that day because I had to run to the bedroom with I had to strip in my studio to get to the bedroom because it was dripping off my clothes so bad. It was like I couldn't have gone through the living room with it. It would have gotten on everything. Yeah, that was funny. So don't do that. I've got some of this green color. I'm just going to add a little bit of it into grab a little bit more of the yellow. Yeah, I would not recommend dumping matte medium in your lap. That was a trip, that's for sure. I'm going to add a few little dots of this green over here. I feel like it was too separate from the rest of the painting. Kind of every now and then I'll just add a color that I've used other places, just a little tiny bit in to kind of it just unifies the painting. Let me use this yellow up here on this bird again. Like his legs need a little bit of help. All right. Now the flowers is the fun part. Grab my number 2 round again, and I'm going to mix up. This is where the light, cadmium red light comes in. If you don't have cadmium red light, you can just use yellow with your cadmium red medium. And use some of this dark yellow, and grab some white. So we're going to start out with this color. We'll add a little bit of our magenta in as well. So, and I'm just going to dab dots. You haven't really mixed it too thick, so or too much. So there's like a little bit of the lighter color on my brush, as well as that darker color. And I'm just going where my branches were and adding little dots of color. Press down a little bit harder for bigger ones, and then I went over the top of my stem in a couple areas. This is kind of a, I don't know, kind of cone shaped. So I'll grab some of the lighter color. There we go. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the Quinacridone Magenta, and this is that light magenta color. Whoop. Oh, got all that purple in it. That's all right. We'll just make it work. My magenta got a little bit of a mess. Add some of that pink in there. Just trying to keep it sort of random. Going over the top of my branches and out from them a little bit. So using those, the direction of those to kind of indicate where I want my flowers to go. And just having some out randomly out in space kind of helps too. We don't have to see how they're connected. Your eye will kind of fill in the dots for you. Let's grab some white and some yellow. And we'll add some light. I still have that pink in my brush, so it's kind of making this sort of a salmon-y yellow color. And let's add some of those in there. Pretty. I'll save the flowers for last. This is the fun part for me. If it gets too yellow, you can add more of your oranges back in. We can grab some of this cadmium red and go back in with that straight and get some really bright dots in, just mixed in a few. I like the coral with against the turquoise colors. Really, I like that color combination.
Get 100 likes there.
Wonderful. That's awesome. Thank you guys. I really appreciate those who watch our shows on Saturdays. We do live shows every Saturday at 2 o'clock, and it's just really fun for us to get to know some of you that like to watch.
Your regulars are demanding a hand dance.
Oh, hand dance. I need music for the hand dance. You're gonna have to sing. If I gotta dance, you gotta sing.
Oh,
Here's
no,
the violet color.
Well,
Well, at least, yeah. That's true. That we weren't married very long when I realized Mark couldn't sing very well. We used to have to ask him not to sing so loud when we were at church. He'd throw me off. He's so off key. So bad. Not that I'm like a superb singer, but Oh, okay, this is some little bit of the violet in there to add. Little depth. All right, so let's start. Let's do our little flowers. And we will, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit.
You need a hairdryer?
No, I don't.
No? Sure.
Pretty sure.
Alright, because it looks a little wet there.
No, I'm good. Go away. Oh my gosh. I'm going to add a little bit. I'm out of my Quinacridone Magenta here. I'm going to need it for the flowers.
You're going to have to scrape up that paint, put it back in the tubes.
No.
No?
No. Sadly, it does not work that way. Alright, I'm going to grab this Quinacridone Magenta and I'm going to use it. I'm going to grab a little bit of the Quinacridone or the light magenta and I'm going to make kind of a starburst shape on this guy right here. Nice big. Start in the center and just kind of pull some random brush strokes out. And then right at the bottom here, I'm just going to dab a few little dots. So like those look like they're coming out at you. And that's about all you need to do for him. We'll put a little bit of highlights on him, but let me zoom in so you can see it better. I'll just zoom in on all these little flowers when I do them. Let's add a little bit of brighter color to the tip of him. Just a few. There we go. That's all you need to do. All right, let's go to the next one here. Let's do some up on our saguaro here. There we go. So these ones I'm going to do the magenta in the middle, and I'm just going to kind of trying to pick a few open areas. So I think I want a nice big one right here. Just do a star shape. Random brush strokes pulled in toward the middle. I feel like that's blurry. Does it look blurry on the screen? I wonder if I need to clean my camera lens.
Well, slightly.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little blurry to me. Okay. Go down here. We'll do one like right in the middle of this arm right here. Probably not a proper placement, but that's all right. Although I think I did see some pictures of some of them that had them down. Most of them have these like crowns of flowers at the top. And the flowers are actually quite large for the size of the cactus. I mean, there were some cactus that were completely covered with blooms. You could barely see the cactus anymore. So don't worry about being too big with your blooms. Go for it. Get some really pretty big flowers going on with our cactus here. I'll put another big one right there. And let's put one kind of coming off the side right here. Just a little bit of it showing. Okay. I'm not really too worried about the shape being perfectly round. I'm just sort of doing some random coming just above, so the center is maybe just above because it comes off of these like little pod things. So I'm starting the center kind of just above the tip of the saguaro. Got a little party hat going on. Be cute. All right. Let's do another one. Let me zoom out so we can talk about placement. Oh. There we go. Okay, so we can kind of look at our placement here. And honestly, I probably would have made this flower a different color because when I did my example, he was over to the side. So I probably wouldn't have put the pinks right next to each other like this if I was doing it again. Just looking at that.
Now, people can have their cactus be females too.
That's true.
You just keep saying he.
Oh, sorry.
He was on the side.
Well, he's.
we don't want to exclude.
That's right. That's right. Well, and the female cactus probably have really pretty blooms compared to the guys. depending.
Well, the male bluebirds are always
That's true.
the brightest.
That's true. I don't know that cactus. Do cactus have a male and female? I doubt very highly that they do.
Okay, that's way outside
I
my
think.
pay grade. I don't.
Okay. I'm just saying I don't know that they. Alright, let me do. I feel like I want another one down here low. And then we'll call it good. So just try not to crowd them in too many of the sameness, if that makes sense. I think that's good. Alright, we'll let that dry. On this guy I did white. Grab my white. I did a nice big white one on him, and this will kind of balance out the white that's in our bird. And I just did one big, just really loading up my paint with a lot of, or my brush with a lot of paint there, right? And here's maybe the center of mine is right off to the off center. I'm just going to do big starburst. And then kind of work my way around it, pull in toward that center spot. Nice and big. Is that fun? Let's do another one. I feel like he needs another one. He's got, let's do one kind of sitting off to the side there, where he's peeking out from the back side. Okay, now grabbing the violet color, which was my magenta and purple. And let's do the center of this guy with the violet. We'll add a little bit down here to him too. If you look at cactus blossom pictures, they have these really ruffly, like wild petals that sort of have multiple colors in them. They're really beautiful. Probably one of the prettiest flowers out there. I'm going to add a little bit more of the white in on top. Good.
I want to know how you keep your hand from dragging through the paints when you're hovering it over the top.
Practice.
Practice.
Practice. If you're having trouble doing that, what you can do is use your opposite hand and find a clean spot, you know, off the canvas, and rest your wrist on it, and then it'll be easier to hover your hand.
Ah, okay.
So that's just a little tip. But yeah, just practice. So I added a little bit of my light blue permanent in the center of that one. Let's add, this is where this cadmium yellow medium or dark comes in, because these flowers over on this one are this. I'm going to add a little bit of the cadmium yellow light to it too. Right here. So now we're going to do a bunch of this color. This is going to mimic the colors that were in this, right? So it'll pull that color off over here. I'm going to put a few little ones kind of coming off of the prickly pear there. Maybe on this one too. Not all of them are going to have it, just a few of them. And let's put a big old flower right here. Wow, we're 2 hours and 15 minutes. Holy moly.
What people don't see off camera is you licking the paper towel to wipe off the...
Oh, it's true. I do use a lot of DNA in my paintings. There's a lot of spitting going on. Yeah, if you buy one of my original artworks, there will be some DNA in it, for sure. Let's do a lot of that. Okay, I'm going to do one down here. I'm making these quite large. I don't know. I hope everybody's enjoyed this one. I've enjoyed it. It's kind of a fun, relaxing painting for me.
Oh yeah, everybody
Definitely been fun.
Yeah, everybody has enjoyed watching. Very relaxing. Instead of watching the dots. And
yeah.
They're sticking around.
Good. Good, good, good. I'll grab some of my brighter yellow, add a little bit of that in there. I feel like it's getting a little too dark. Add some of the cadmium yellow light streaks here and there. The centers of these are going to be that reddish orange color. Let's put one more down here. I feel like he needs one. Maybe on this guy right here, just right here. Main thing is you're just wanting to let kind of the outside edges be uneven. So you don't want them to be too perfectly round. So if they look too perfect, I'm going to come back in here and just mess them up by putting some dots, some lines that are outside the border. Awesome. It's looking really good. I think I want, while I've got this brighter color, I think I'm going to add a few more dots into my lighter color over here, just to add a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to add this yellow to, this is the cadmium yellow light. I'm going to clean my brush out so I don't have so much that lighter, the darker cadmium yellow light. This is the color that was in this one, so we're going to use that in the center of these flowers. So just going to dab and pull. That one you're not going to see the center because it's closed up. Just trying to stay in the center there. Little dots, little uneven outside edges. Let some of that dark red show through in the middle too. That'll help. Okay, that's good. Isn't that fun? Now we can grab some of our bright pink. This is that light magenta. And we'll put the bright pink on the tips of these. So just little dashes kind of pulled in toward the center. Not super detailed. Just kind of adding another layer of color. On the tips of our little purple there, sorry. There we go. Fun. Right, now on this one, we're going to add, I'm not going to worry about cleaning that out. I'm just going to grab some of my cadmium red light and do the centers of these flowers with that. That'll pull in that coral color from the other side of the painting. And kind of pick up tones from the bird too. Okay, grabbing a little bit of white now. And doing some white dashes on the tips of this flower. Little white dots. Kind of mixing a little bit with what the colors that are already in my brush, so that's okay. Doesn't have to be perfectly white. I'm setting it down, dotting it, and pulling it toward the center a little bit. Okay. I think we're done. What do you think? I think we're good. Well, we can go back in if you wanted to, and I don't know, I feel like that bird's beak is like almost invisible, so I think I'm going to put in a little bit of this. There we go. That's better. You can see it. All right, let me zoom back out. Woo, woo. All right, woo, in and out, in and out. Stick you out. There we go. There's our cactus. Isn't that fun? Hope you've enjoyed this today. Really appreciate those who stuck around and watched. Oh, I didn't do on my that watched my live show today. If you're watching on the rebroadcast, thank you for watching too. I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And you can go to my channel by clicking on my picture or by clicking on my name in the bottom corner of this video, and it will take you to my channel where you can see the other videos that I've done. I'm going to add a little bit of Quinacridone Magenta to the center of these while I'm talking.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah,
a little bit
I think I needed some that
little darker,
whatever you called it, magenta stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we like everybody to subscribe to the channel, and join the Facebook group, follow Angela on Twitter and Instagram. All the links are down below.
Yes. And we will be here next Saturday with our pumpkin. So get you ready for fall. I'm going to do some stacked pumpkins with a very simple background. So that should be a lot of fun. Hope you join us for that. Thank you so much for watching today, and I will see you next week.